one in the interest of A.H. For a final trial, calling first for the mother, Lexis Hart. Lexis Hart, Lexis Hart, Lexis Hart. All right, there is no answer. No one is presently in the waiting room. And the court would also announce here at the top that we are proceeding by agreement virtually and pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 24.017 and 74.094. With that, Ms. Dick, is the department ready?
The department's ready, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. White, ready?
Your Honor, I have to announce not ready. I'm trying to reach my client and request a short continuance.
Okay, we have a dismissal date of the 24th, as I think of this month, as we're all, I believe, keenly aware. So let me, the court will note that. We'll come back to that matter while you continue to try to get a hold of her. I don't believe she was present at our last trial setting.
She did appear at the last setting, but she had apparently a difficult time logging in. She appeared before it was over, but
and she is she's out of state, correct?
She's in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Okay, so barely in state. Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Your
Honor. Ms. Ivory Lindsay, are you as ready as you can be?
Yes, Judge, I'm ready.
All right, thank you.
And I'm trials now.
Yes, yes, the court will so note, and with the court's appreciation. Ms. Iverson, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. All right. Ms. White, have you had any contact with her reciprocally this morning?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And do you have reason to believe that you have the latest and the same contact information that the department has for your client?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I believe there is an agreement to commence the trial on the merits and then recess. Is that correct, Ms. White, Ms. Dick?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So with that, does everyone defer any openings until our next setting?
Yes,
I
Your
would
Honor.
request that we defer our opening statements in the next setting.
All right. Thank you. Okay. With that, Ms. Dick, you may call your first, and we will. I'll just swear that individual in.
Thank you. I'd like to call Tracy. What is your position with the department?
I'm an investigator for Child Protection Services.
All right. And were you the investigator on the case with Lexis Hart that began in 2023?
Yes.
Right. And at the time of that investigation, who were the children that were involved in the case? Okay.
And we'll just use their initials as we're live streaming on YouTube in order to maintain public access and open courts. So, very good. You may continue.
Okay. And were you able to locate the mother easily at that time?
In the beginning, yes.
Okay. And where was she staying?
At that time, she had an apartment in Wichita Falls.
Okay. And had she been in that apartment for a while?
Yes.
All right. And when were you able to actually speak with her in person?
April 18th of 2023.
Okay. And at the time that you met with her, what was her overall concern about her case?
Ms. Dick, I'm sorry to interrupt. Judge, should we take this off of YouTube given the circumstances? I would move to do so.
Okay. All right. I believe everyone might know what is likely coming. So is there agreement to stop the YouTube live stream in order to protect the privacy of the child in this matter, as it would supersede any right the public might have to be privy to the proceedings? Even if we were in person, the court would be closing the courtroom. Does the department agree and stipulate to that, Ms.
The department agrees and stipulates, Your Honor.
Ms. White?
Yes, Your Honor. I agree and stipulate as well.
Thank you. Ms. Ivory Lindsay, any objections?
No objection, Judge.
Okay, thank you. B for continuation of adversary hearing. Is the mother, Stephanie White, present? Stephanie White. Stephanie White. All right, no answer. No one is presently in the waiting room. All right, what about the father, William Bryant?
We discussed that at the last hearing, Judge, and we believe that he is deceased.
All right, that is my recollection based on the mother's statements at that time. So, with that, let me get everyone who may testify. Everyone who may testify in the Bryant matter. I know that's going to be you, Ms. East, and everyone else, department, any other witnesses, CASA. If you all will at this time raise your right hands to be sworn, please. On the Bryant matter. All right. Do you all swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes?
Yes.
Ms. Mays, Ms. East, Ms. Croft, Ms. Price. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any request for opening statements from anyone?
No, Your Honor.
Hearing none. Thank you. Ms. Edwards, you may call your first.
Thank you. I'd like to call the investigator, Caroline Price. And what do you do for a living, Ms. Price?
I'm an investigator for CPS.
And how are you connected to this case?
I was the investigator on this case.
Okay. How did the department become involved with the baby?
The mother was admitted to the hospital on the 16th, and she had the baby on the 18th. The baby tested positive, the meconium tested positive for cannabis. And there were also concerns about the living condition when the baby was released.
I'm object to hearsay about the test and use to strike.
Okay. Sustained, so stricken.
Were you able to speak to the parents regarding allegations that were made?
I was not able to speak with Mr. Bryant. I never could come face to face with him, but I did speak with the mother,
Okay.
Stephanie White. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Were you able to go visit the baby?
I did not go visit the baby. A coworker did go visit the baby to lay eyes on the baby first off.
Okay. And was she in the NICU?
Yes,
And why was she in the NICU?
because she was premature.
Do you know how premature she was when she was born?
Objection called for hearsay.
I'm asking her knowledge, Judge.
Overruled. You may answer.
It is my understanding that she was approximately a pound when she was born.
So she was very, very little.
Yes.
What kind of health condition was the baby in while she was in the NICU?
I don't know how to answer that. As far as,
Was she doing well? Was she growing, kind of catching up?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She was. It's my understanding that they only had one issue with her, and it was a distended stomach, basically, and basically she was constipated. I think is how they because I didn't know what that meant, so that's what they told me.
Okay. Did she require any special medical equipment?
When she was released?
Yes.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So upon her release, she didn't need any kind of extra medical care.
No, ma'am.
Did you have concerns upon her release for her to be released to her parents?
Yes.
What were those concerns?
Concerns of drug use. The concerns were also with the living conditions, the safety of the living conditions.
What kind of concerns about the living conditions did you have?
Stability.
Can you elaborate on that?
I can. When I spoke with the mother, I had went out to the property that she was living on, and they were staying in a RV camper that I could see, and it didn't look good from the outside. Of course, I did not go in the inside, but I could visually see that there was no electricity going to the property, which again, that's not a crime to be poor or anything like that. So that just brought about other concerns as to if the if she had made the proper arrangements to have a baby coming home.
Did you discuss those concerns with Miss White?
I did, yes.
Did you discuss the condition of the home with Miss White?
I did, yes.
Did you ask Miss White if she had electricity in the home?
I didn't ask her. I just kind of pointed out the fact that there's no electrical wires running to the home. And she said, no, they didn't have electricity in there. And I asked about water. And she said that they don't have water on the property because the water is sulfuric. So they use bottled water.
Okay. And what is concerning about not having electricity and water when taking care of a newborn?
Well, it had more to do with the fact that they would not let me inside the home to see if they had made other preparations, such as, you know, a place for the baby to, safe place for the baby to sleep. If the conditions were, you know, make sure there's no holes in the floor, no holes in the ceiling, to where the baby's exposed to the outside environment. Because I noticed when I was out there that the mosquitoes were excessive.
Okay. Did you discuss those concerns with Miss White?
No, not directly, no.
Why not?
Because I overall pointed out about the RV, so I didn't really go into the specifics with her. While I was out there, I had made efforts to try to get her and Mr. Bryant to come into the office, so that we could kind of sit down and get an overall picture of, you know, what their plans are, you know, what they're planning on doing, if they're planning on moving, if they're, you know, going to build a place out there, or if needed, make any repairs. I never could get them to come into the office.
Okay. Was Miss White cooperative with you? Did she allow you to see the home?
No, ma'am.
Did
She was semi-cooperative as far as she would come out to the gate. There was a couple of times that I kind of surprised. Well, I guess you could say I was surprised her each time because I never could announce that I was coming out there. But she would, one time I caught her walking back from the back of the property up to the front, and she tried to hurry up and get in the RV before I could like get her, you know, like catch her. And I was able to holler at her from the gate because, and she answered me from inside the RV. Sorry?
Sustained. Just wait for the next question, please.
Okay.
Did Miss White give any reason for why she wouldn't let you in the home?
She said that the lady that owned the property, which was William's sister, didn't want us on the property.
Okay. Did she stay in regular contact with you during your investigation?
No, ma'am. We could never get her. I would call and leave messages, text her. I could never get a response. So it was basically if I went out there and I happened to catch her. So I made a lot of visits out to the property. A lot were
Just non-responsive and called for narrative.
Sustained.
Given the concerns for drug use, did you ask Miss White and Miss Bryant and Mr. Bryant to take a drug test?
I did text her asking her to take a drug test, asking for both of them to take a drug test. I never actually spoke with Mr. Bryant or even saw him during any of this. And she never responded to my text.
Okay. So you did request her to take a drug test?
I did.
Okay. And it was never taken or acknowledged?
It was never acknowledged. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What caused you to have drug concerns in this case?
Because Miss White had tested positive for amphetamines or methamphetamines on the 14th.
Object to hearsay again as to the test results and move to strike.
Sustained.
Given the living conditions and drug concerns, what was the safety concern for the baby being released to mom?
The safety concern was drugs and the living conditions.
Okay, how would that affect her safety if she were released to the mom?
The baby had tested, the meconium tested positive for cannabis. And so we were concerned about possible drug use in the environment and if the baby would be would be properly taken care of in the event that they were using drugs when the baby came home. And as far as the living conditions goes, again, you know, we weren't ever able to see the home, so we could not verify the safety for the baby.
Did you discuss your concern about releasing the baby to Miss White with Miss White?
Yes.
Okay. Did you discuss any potential alternatives for where the baby could go with Miss White?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did she provide any names of people that may be able to take the baby home when she was released?
Not at first. She just flat out told me the baby wasn't going to go stay with anybody else. And then as we pushed for information because just in case, she wound up giving us Laura's name, which is the lady that owned the property that they lived on.
Okay. Did the department look into Laura for potential placement?
Yes.
Okay. What was the outcome of that?
She did not meet the requirements.
Okay. So upon discharge of the baby, where did she go?
She wound up going to a foster home.
Okay. Have you visited the baby in that placement?
Not since we placed the baby.
Okay. To your knowledge, how is she doing in that placement?
I have talked to them, and it is my understanding the baby's doing great.
Okay. Is the placement meeting all?
Object to hearsay and move to strike.
Dane.
Is the placement meeting all the baby's needs at this time?
To my knowledge, yes.
Object to hearsay.
Overruled.
Are there any relatives or fictive kin possible placements at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the department looking into all of those options?
Yes, ma'am.
Have any been approved at this time?
I don't know what the progress is on that, but I know there was a home assessment done that was in good standing. I don't know what's happened since then.
Okay, that may be a question for somebody else.
Okay.
Do you know where mom is currently?
All I know is what she told me.
What did she tell you?
She told me she was living with a friend of hers off of Charlotte.
Okay. And has mom visited with the baby?
Not to my knowledge. I have made attempts to set up, and I've never gotten a response.
From Miss White?
Mom, yes.
Okay.
I've asked her. I'm sorry, do I need to go ahead or? I have asked her. I sent her a text to the lady she's staying with. The lady texted me back, said she was not there right now and that she would text me back about that, and she never did. I also messaged her last week. You know what? I'm not sure. I messaged her twice about it, and she's never responded about
Okay.
that.
Okay. And then talking about the dad, you said you were never able to make face-to-face contact with him.
Nor phone contact, no ma'am.
Okay. Do you know if he was on the birth certificate?
All I know is what
Object
she
to call
told
for
me.
hearsay.
Sustained.
What-
The mother told her.
What makes you believe that Mr. Bryant is the dad of this baby?
Because Miss White made every indication that he was the father.
Okay. Did Miss White indicate if Mr. Bryant signed an acknowledgement of paternity when she was born?
No ma'am.
To your knowledge, is Miss White and Mr. Bryant married?
To my knowledge, they're not.
Okay. To your knowledge, is she married to anyone else?
No ma'am.
Objection calls for hearsay.
I'll rephrase.
Okay.
Has Miss White told you if she's married to anyone else?
No.
Okay. Has Miss White told you if there are any other potential fathers of this baby?
No.
In your investigation, did you, let me strike that. Do you know if Miss White has any prior CPS involvement?
Yes.
Okay. When was the last time the department was involved with Miss White?
I am not sure of the date. The last child would have been her daughter, Delilah.
Okay, and do you know like what year that was?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay. Was it at all recently, or was it quite a ways in the past? Do you have any time frame?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay, that's okay. Does Miss White have other children?
Yes.
Do those children live with her?
No.
Do you know where those children are at?
I know one of them lives with their father, and I think the other one does too, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you know what the concerns were in the prior CPS cases with Miss White?
No. No, ma'am, I
Objection
don't.
calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
You don't know?
No, ma'am, not right offhand.
Okay, that's based on your observations through your investigation. Would it danger the baby's physical health or safety to be returned to Miss White at this time?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
You
Go
can-
ahead. Okay. Yes, ma'am, I am concerned again with the living conditions, as we still have not been able to verify the safety for the baby, also for potential drug use.
Do you believe it's in the best interest of this child for the department to be named the temporary managing conservator of her at this time?
Yes, I do.
Did you ask Miss White to complete an ICWA questionnaire?
She did not. I did not ask her to complete a questionnaire, but I did ask her if she had Native American heritage, and she told me no.
Okay. Did you ask her if there are any possible Native American heritage from Mr. Bryant?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay, that's okay. I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
Yes, sir. When was the last time you had contact with my client?
She was face-to-face contact or telephone contact?
Any contact?
Contact was been Friday, this past Friday.
Would that be when we were in court?
No, ma'am, that was after court. And I don't think we had court on Friday. I believe it was on Tuesday or something.
You're right, my mental calendar is on. Okay, so you don't have necessarily any, well, let me back up. Did you discuss her living situation with her at that time, Friday?
No, ma'am, I texted her and forwarded her the link to this court case.
So was that a two-way communication, or you just communicated with her?
I communicated with her and she communicated back because I need to verify she actually got it.
Okay. And so when was the last time you had any substantive contact with her, like actually talking about things other than just a court date and Zoom information?
That would have been when she was in the jail.
Okay, so it's been some time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So you can't say that you have any very current information on her situation, her living situation, anything like that, right?
No, ma'am. I have not visited with her in person since she has gotten out of jail.
Are you aware of what her transportation situation has been?
Only what she's told me.
And what would that be?
She told me she did have transportation.
I'll pass the witness.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, what?
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
When did Mr. William Bryant pass?
Ma'am, I don't know.
He was alive at the time that you wrote this affidavit, is that correct?
As far as I know, he was. Yes, ma'am. From what she told me, he
Go
died
ahead.
on Memorial. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I said, from what she told me, he died on Memorial Day. Now, again, I don't have a death certificate or anything, so I'm not sure.
Okay. At the time that you filed the affidavit, he was in the hospital, is that correct?
I'm not certain. I believe so.
If that's what you stated in your affidavit, would that be accurate?
Yes,
That at
yes,
the time that you filed this, the mother is incarcerated and the alleged father is in the hospital?
yes, ma'am. And that is
Object to leading.
yes.
Okay.
Object to leading.
Overruled.
Did you consider FBSS in this case?
Yes.
And why didn't you do FBSS?
I think that's in the process now with the CBS.
No, did you consider family-based services only and not a removable?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. We had to, the baby was in the hospital, and they were trying to get in touch with her for her to come and get the baby, which is what it, brought about me having to call the police department to come to the property because we were desperately trying to locate her.
when you call the police department to come to the property, is that the point that the mother got arrested?
Yes,
Okay. Do you have medical records in this case?
I don't.
Do you recall getting an email from me in May asking if there was any additional information that wasn't included in the affidavit?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't respond to that email, did you?
No, ma'am.
You do have another option for placement, and that's Miss Lexi East, correct?
Yes, I believe they're looking into that.
Don't you believe that that would have been important information that wasn't in the affidavit to give me?
I didn't have that information at the time.
You didn't know about Lexi East when I sent you the email?
Yes, ma'am. But
Okay, so when I sent you the email asking if there was any other information, don't you think it would have been appropriate to let me know that there was a possible placement family member?
honestly, you're an attorney, and I feel like you should have gone through my attorney, which would be Miss,
Okay, objection non-responsive.
Sustained.
The question I'm asking you is yes or no. You understand that I am the child's attorney, correct?
I do, yes.
Okay. Don't you think it's important for me to know that there's a family member who may be a placement?
Yes.
You didn't give that information to me, did you?
No, ma'am.
And you've known about this family member since May 20th, is that correct?
I'm not sure the date.
Do you need to refresh your memory by looking at your records?
I think that we had to go by May the 20th. I'm trying to remember.
Do you
It
need to
would
look
have
at
been
your text messages to refresh your record, your memory?
my text messages.
With Miss Lexi East?
Yes, I know what you're talking about now. Yes, she did reach out to me. However,
Okay, objection non-responsive. You filed the affidavit on
Okay.
May 17th, is that correct?
yes,
Miss Lexi got in touch with you 3 days later, is that correct?
I believe so.
All right. She let you know that she was a family member and she wanted to be placement, is that correct?
That is correct.
You had a courtesy worker go out to her home to do a preliminary check, is that correct?
Yes.
And that preliminary check was approved, correct?
As far as I know, I requested the
Okay,
no
hold on
assessment.
1 second. Objection non-responsive. Just answer what I'm asking you, please.
Sustained.
Did you run her background check?
I did, yes.
Did she pass a background check?
She did, yes.
Did you run her husband's background check?
Yes.
Did he pass a background check?
Yes.
Okay, so can you explain to me why you've known about her since May 20th? They have passed a preliminary, they have passed background checks, and this baby is still in foster care.
Ma'am, that's a process that's beyond me. All I do is run the checks and get with my supervisor about that, and then it moves on to the CVS. I don't know what occurs after that.
Okay, it moves to CVS once the department has temporary managing conservatorship, correct?
Yes,
The department doesn't have temporary managing conservatorship yet, do they?
we have custody of her.
Okay, but it moves to CVS after the judge makes a decision at the adversary hearing, correct?
I honestly am not that familiar with that process.
Okay, so you're still on the case right now as the investigator, is that right?
No, ma'am, that's not my case anymore.
So whose case is it now?
It's moved to CVS.
Okay, so whose case is it?
I'm not sure.
So then you haven't talked to the CVS person to let them know about this family member that can be placement either, have you?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Don't you think that would be important information for CVS to know?
I totally agree.
Okay. So the process then is you get the information, you give it to your supervisor, and then how does a child get placed with a family member?
Again, that is a process that is, I don't know the process of that.
How long have you been an employee or an investigator with CPS?
A little over a year.
And at no point you have been trained on how to have a child placed in a family member's home.
Yes,
Is that what
ma'am,
your
I
testimony
have.
is? You
I
have,
have,
okay.
but at the same time, it has to go through a process that I don't know about as far as the approval for the home.
Ms. Moore, let me ask you, have you been able to visit with Lexi East?
I have and CASA has, and it is going to be my request that this child be moved immediately.
Okay, has either you and or CASA, if you know, been to their home?
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. You may continue.
I'm trying to understand not only for this case, but for future cases, Ms. Price, the process that you're talking about. So you said that you've been trained on the process, but then you said you don't know the process. So I'm trying to understand where the disconnect is.
Well, because I'm not CVS, ma'am. So once I've done my part, it moves to a different area, and I'm not familiar with that past. I've done what I was supposed to do.
Okay, hold on a second. So as the investigator, is it your part to look into possible placements?
Yes, ma'am, and I did so.
And is it your part, when you find an appropriate placement, to place a child with family instead of foster care?
Yes, ma'am, but there
Okay,
again,
hold on one second. Hold on one second. So before you place a child with a family member, instead of having a child with a stranger, what do you typically do?
we asked the mother for a list of people that she would like to care for her baby, and we have to investigate all of them in the order that she provides for us. And Miss Lexi was number 4.
Okay, and you investigated her in the order, correct?
Yes, number 4.
Who were numbers 2 and 3?
Number 1 was Laura, and number 2 was Shanna, and number 3 was Miss Latham, the lady that she's staying with now.
Okay. When I asked you for additional information in this case, don't you think it would have been important for me to know that there were 4 people mentioned as a possible placement?
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't give me that either, did you? You didn't send me those 4
No,
placements.
ma'am, I did not. Again, why didn't you
witness.
request those through my
Objection on response to the witness.
Right. Thank you. Ms. Price, at what point, give me a date, when did the department, whether it was Invest or CVS,
Mhm.
when did the department deem, if at all, that Lexi East was an appropriate placement for the child?
Again, like I said, I just did the investigative part. I don't know what the rest of that is as far as what goes on above me. So I don't know.
Sitting here today, you don't know whether Ms. East has been approved or not.
Right. Yes, sir. As far as what I looked into, everything was good.
All right. And by that, I assume you mean the threshold background checks,
Yes.
criminal history, CPS history.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Back to you, Ms. Edwards.
I don't have any further questions of this witness.
All right. Thank you. You may call your next. Let me make sure, Ms. Iverson, do you have any other questions of Ms. Price?
No, sir. I was going to go back to ask about Ms. East, but Ms. Moore covered it, so I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Price. You are excused. Ms. Edwards, I'm sorry. You're next again?
I'll call CASA.
Okay. Ms. Croft, I believe, and she was sworn. Ms. Price, we'll let you go back to, let's get Ms. Price muted. All right. You may proceed.
Thank you. Could you please state your name for the record?
Monica Croft.
And how are you connected to this case?
I am the CASA coordinator.
Okay. Have you been in contact with Miss White in this case?
Yes, ma'am, last Friday.
Okay. Did you discuss the child with Miss White?
I did, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any safety concerns for the child being placed with Miss White at this time?
I can't answer that. I have not been to her home of residence.
Okay. Did you discuss possible family placements with Miss White for the child?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What placements would those be?
She told me about Miss East.
Okay. How is Miss East related to this family?
She is a paternal cousin.
Okay. Did you visit her home?
I did yesterday.
Okay. What's your impression of their home?
I feel very comfortable with her home. I don't really have any safety concerns with her home. And we would like to see the child placed there.
Did you discuss possible placement with Miss East?
Yes.
What did she express regarding placement?
That she is very willing and open and she wants the child placed with her.
Okay. Did she have a prior relationship with the child? Well, I guess she was just born. Did she have a prior relationship with Miss White?
She knows, she knew the father. Yes, they're cousins.
Okay, so she's related to the father, not Miss White.
Mm-hmm. She's the paternal cousin.
Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification. And you don't have any concerns about her as placement?
Not for my visit yesterday. No, ma'am. I'd already asked her if her background had been ran and everything because it was apparent that other people have known about this placement before CASA found out and nothing had ever been done. So she said the courtesy worker got all her information. And as far as she knew, she had passed everything and she was wondering herself why the child had not been placed in the home with her yet.
Okay. Are there other adults living in her home, or is it just Miss East?
She's married to her husband, yes.
Okay. Do they have any children living in the home?
There are 4 children in the home, over the age of 5, or 5 and above, excuse me.
Okay. How big is the home?
It's a 3-bedroom.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, mobile home.
Do you have any concerns with 5 children living in the home of that size?
2 girls share a room, 2 boys share a room, and due to the baby's age, there's the bassinet that she will be sleeping in Miss East's room.
Okay. Did they already have items and supplies for a baby?
Yes, ma'am, she does.
Okay. And you think it's in her best interest to be moved there?
I do. And considering what I knew yesterday, I wish she would have been moved sooner than later.
Have you discussed that with the department?
I did not contact Ms. Price. I just found out yesterday, and I'm just finding out who the caseworker will be on the case. So, not at this moment. No, we have not.
Okay. I have no further questions of this witness.
Okay, all right. And Ms. Croft, what is it that you learned yesterday that caused you to wish that the child had been placed already?
That a courtesy worker from Montgomery County had already been to Miss East's house and did a preliminary home study, and all information was already passed over to investigations. And due to several text messages back and forth from investigations to Miss East, it just seems like the ball was dropped and nobody picked it up and got on the ball to put this child with family.
All right, as far as you know, this may be something that you learned yesterday, as late as yesterday. When was Mr. and Mrs. East approved?
I want to say the courtesy worker went out at the latter part of May, so probably the last week in May.
Okay.
There were several dates thrown out, sir, with text messages going back and forth. I can't recall the exact date.
Right, sure, that's okay. Did you happen to have the safe sleep, no co-sleeping discussion with Ms. East?
Yes, Miss Moore has spoken with her and told her about the no co-sleeping and everything. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Do you know whether they have a bassinet yet?
I'm sorry, what was that, sir?
Do you know whether they have a bassinet yet?
Yes, they have a bassinet. She's got a bouncer. She's got clothes. She's got toys. She's got a car seat. She's got a car seat for an infant, and then she also has a car seat for whenever a baby grows bigger. It has been talked about that when baby gets bigger out of the bassinet, she will then need a crib to put in her room, in Miss East's room. So that way the baby can sleep in a crib versus a bassinet.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Iverson.
Yes, sir. Ms. Croft, I know that you said that Ms. East is, Judge, I'm getting a lot of background from myself on that. Is that the same for everybody else?
Say that again, Ms. Iverson, please.
I'm hearing a lot of echo from myself. I don't know if everyone else is hearing that because I can ignore myself.
Well, yeah, I am hearing it. I assume that it was coming some background noise from your device, but I want to make sure, let me make sure everybody else is muted. So let's try it one more time.
Okay. Ms. Croft, yeah, that took care of it. Ms. Croft, I heard, I know that you said that Ms. East is a paternal cousin, but do you know the nature of her relationship with mom? Like, have they been friends for years, et cetera?
They know of each other. Yes, ma'am. I can't say, they're close acquainted friends, but they do know each other somewhat.
Okay. And so obviously you're advocating that the baby be moved like today if possible.
Yes, ma'am. And also when I spoke with mom, Miss East was, her information and phone number was given to me by the mother.
Okay. And when was the last time you spoke with Ms. White?
That was on Friday.
I'll pass the witness.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore.
Did you reach out to CPS at any point in this case to find out any additional information?
No, I have not. Other than the fact, I'm sorry, yesterday I did send an email out to see who would be the CVS worker, but other than that, no, ma'am, I have not.
When you visited the home, her other 4 children were present. Is that correct?
Yes,
Did you have an opportunity to interact with those children and to see how she was handling those children?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
And do you believe that she's capable of handling an infant, a preemie infant at that, with these other children in the home?
I do, most definitely. Yes, ma'am.
She also has a bathtub, 2 bathtubs for
Yes.
the baby. Is that correct?
One's an infant size and one is a size for whenever baby gets bigger.
You discussed baby food with her, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, like the plugs in the wall, things like that, that's something that she's going to do, correct?
Correct.
You're not concerned about that at this moment because this baby is not even mobile, correct?
Right.
So you don't believe that that should inhibit her ability to get the child right now?
No, ma'am, not at all.
As far as a crib goes, is that something that you would request that the department start working on for this family, that they will have that when this child is out of the bassinet?
Yes, if possible. Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass it in.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Croft, are you aware of how long our baby was in the hospital?
Your Honor, I'd have to go back and look at the affidavit.
Okay, all right. Are you aware of any training that needs to occur before the East received the child where the court took place with them?
No, sir. I've seen the child in the foster home and there's no medical needs or anything like that, sir.
Okay, very good. And what, if you know, I know it changes daily, if not daily. How much do we weigh?
Oh, I don't know right now.
Okay,
I can let you know, Judge, if you want me to.
okay, go ahead.
Prior to the last hearing, the foster parent informed me that the baby was almost 5 pounds. They were having weekly appointments with a pediatrician until she got to 5 pounds. So I probably by now she is.
Okay, so we've grown like 400%. Okay, all right, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Edwards. Thank you,
I
Ms.
have no additional questions.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Ms. Iverson? Any other questions of Ms. Croft?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Croft. Ms. Edwards, you may call your next, if any.
Thank you. I'd like to call the investigation supervisor, Tracy Mays.
Okay, Ms. Mays, thank you. Were you sworn in, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, Your Honor, I was.
Okay, thank you. You
All
may.
right.
Thank you. Would you state your full name for the record?
It's Tracy Mays.
And how are you related to this case?
I was the investigative supervisor.
Okay. How long have you been an investigative supervisor?
A little over a year.
Okay. Do you know what the process is to get a relative placement approved in investigations?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe that process for us?
We complete a preliminary home study. We have someone go out to the home, take pictures of the home, run the criminal CPS history. We fill out a preliminary home study, which is sent to my management, and they approve or deny.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Were you given any relative placements for this baby?
We were initially giving Laura Smith and Shelby Latham, and then my worker said there was another relative that was not able to take the baby at the time, and also we were provided with Miss East.
Okay, when were you provided with Miss East, if you know?
A courtesy was sent on the 28th, and I think the worker went out on the 29th.
Of May?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were those preliminarily approved?
The preliminary home study wasn't completed at the time, no, ma'am.
Okay. Has it been approved now?
Not at this time, not yet.
Okay. Where are we at in the process of getting that approved?
The case has been transferred over to CVS, so I would have to follow up with CVS.
Okay. And when did that transition occur?
We had a transfer happen on the 31st of May.
Okay. So as of the 31st of May, was that home study approved?
And not at the time.
Okay. Is it the department's policy to place children with family without a home study being approved?
We can do a preliminary home study in place for family.
Okay. Why was that not
A
done?
preliminary home assessment, I'm sorry, wrong wording.
Okay. Why was that not done here in this case? If you know.
I'm not for sure.
Okay. Were you using due diligence to get any possible family placements approved and baby placed in this case?
Yes, because we initially, I mean, when Miss Laura approached us, that's initially where we wanted to place the baby, but with policy, we were not able to.
Gotcha. And as far as you know, whenever the department was given Miss East's name, due diligence was exercised in that.
Yes.
I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. So, Ms. Mays, sitting here
Yes.
today, do you have an approved or a denied preliminary assessment?
No, I don't have neither yet.
Okay, all right, thank you. Do you know whether CVS has?
I'm not for sure, sir, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Iverson?
No questions for this witness, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Moore?
Ms. Mays, can you explain to me what's involved in the preliminary home assessment, not in the full home study?
We go out, we view the home, take pictures of the home inside and outside. We ask about the income, the medical, mental health, animals, if they have bodies of water, guns, all that information. And we have a form that we complete for the home assessment.
Okay. Can you tell me why a preliminary home assessment wasn't done in this case?
I cannot, no,
You're the supervisor, is that correct?
I am.
Are you the person who staffs these cases with the investigator, for instance, Carolyn Price?
Yes, we
And
had
how-
very, very limited information on.
Okay,
The home
objection not
assessment.
responded. How frequently do you speak to Ms. Price throughout an investigation?
Pretty often.
So why, once the department found out about Ms. Lexi East on the 20th, did you not instruct your investigator to do a preliminary?
I wasn't made aware on the 28th. That's why the courtesy was sent on the 28th.
So then Ms. Price did not let you know for 8 days that she had a possible family member.
I'm not sure. I didn't get that information till the 28th. And that's
So then
why-
is it fair to say that Ms. Price did not give you the information if she testified she found out on the 20th that for 8 days she withheld that information from you? That's correct, right?
That's, I wasn't aware of that information.
If the preliminary only involves looking at the home and running the background checks, and that was done on the 29th, why can't you just go ahead and place now? Or before now?
I don't have like I said, I don't have an approved yet and it's not completed.
So what part of it is not complete?
It has to be typed up and put together and turned in.
Okay, so the prelim was done on the 29th. So since the 29th, it's now the 11th.
It hasn't
And
been
hold on one
completed.
second, please let me finish.
That's
Please let me
fine,
finish.
okay.
You said the preliminary, the courtesy worker went and did the home assessment and whatnot on the 29th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so since getting that information, and Miss Lexi gave her and her husband's information for a background check to Miss Price. So that information was also had. Are you telling me that it just hasn't been typed up since then? And that's why it hasn't been sent to the program director?
We were not able to complete it at the time.
So what were you not able to complete?
We did not complete the home assessment prior to.
What part of the home assessment is not complete?
I'm not for sure if we have completely all of the information.
Okay, are you the supervisor?
Yes, I am.
You have access to the information, correct?
Yes, the only information I have in my system at the time was what the home looked like. I don't have the information with the income. I don't have the information with medical, mental, any of that was in there at the time.
Have you instructed your investigator to ask those questions of Ms.
I have
East? Have you talked to Ms. East about the background checks or Ms. Price about the background checks on the information that Ms. East gave her?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you said previously that the preliminary involves looking at the home and doing the background check. You didn't mention anything about the finances, any of that stuff. So is that also part of our preliminary, or are you talking about a larger type of home?
No, ma'am, it's part of it as well.
Okay. So the department doesn't have that information because the department hasn't reached out to Ms. East and asked for that information. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So can you explain to me then, when you answer the question, that you exercise due diligence? Can you explain to me what due diligence means?
Meaning that I located family. I attempted to reach Miss Laura. We attempted to reach the people that the mom had on the list.
Do you believe that failing to follow through on gathering information about a possible family member is exercising due diligence?
Yes, ma'am, you're correct.
I'm correct in what?
That exercising is due diligence.
Okay, that wasn't actually my question. My question was, do you believe that it's due diligence when you fail to reach out to a family member to get the information that you need?
No, ma'am, it's not.
Okay, so in fact, in this case, the department did not exercise due diligence, did they?
We did not fully get all the information.
Which means you did not fully complete due diligence, did you?
We didn't get all the information.
How many of the preliminary home studies have been done in the time that you've been in investigations?
I have
Give me
done,
just an estimate with you.
when I have removal, I have done pretty good many,
Okay. And so how long do they typically take?
just a couple days.
But in this case, we are well beyond a couple of days. Is that correct?
You're correct.
Why is the case being transferred to CDS before the preliminary home assessment is completed?
Our policy
What is the policy?
within the time frame that we have to send a case to CBS,
How much time does the policy give you to send a case to
10 to
CBS?
14 days.
What's the policy number?
I'm not for sure right off what that policy is.
So is that also why the case is transferred to CVS before an adversary hearing is even held?
It depends on if the adversary is reset or not.
Okay, so tell me how that works, please.
This adversary was reset, which the time frame passed.
Okay. Are you familiar as a supervisor with how other departments work?
Somewhat, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you aware of whether or not CVS is able to do anything in the case before it's fully transferred after an adversary hearing?
They are.
Okay. Whose responsibility is it to work on the initial placement with the family? The
Investigations.
possible family. It's investigation's responsibility?
Mhm.
What does your policy say regarding a preference for family over foster care?
Family over foster care.
Does your policy outline any specific
I'm not
tasks?
aware of the full policy, but if
Well,
we
ma'am,
do
can you let me
prefer,
finish my question so that you understand fully? Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Are
I'm
you
ready.
aware if there's any policy about the expediency with which preliminary assessments are to be done for family?
I don't know it right offhand.
But you do know that there is one?
Yes, there is.
Do you know what that one says?
I don't know word by word right now what it says. No, ma'am, not at this moment.
Do you know generally what it says?
I mean, it is best practice to place with family over foster.
Does it say anything about the timelines for that?
I'm not for sure right off the time frame.
As the supervisor of the investigations department, don't you believe that that's something that would be very important for you to know about the policy?
Yes, ma'am, there is. But right at this moment, I don't know the exact amount.
I'll pass the witness. No, I'll ask one more question, Judge. Do you believe that it's in the child's best interest to be placed with family over foster care?
I do.
Pass witness.
All right, thank you. So, Ms. Mays, should Montgomery County have completed this form
No.
subsequent to their preliminary assessment?
We can gather most of the information. They just went out to do the home, to take photographs of the home and everything.
All right, so they would not have interviewed as to finances.
We could, they could have, or we could have done it via phone.
But either way, that form has not been completed,
That's correct.
much less forward to CASA and or Ms. Moore.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Edwards.
I have no further questions of this witness.
Right. So the court at this point will simply point out that this is a type of preliminary assessment that per the code shall be done prior to an adversary hearing, but much less one that has been reset. So I understand policy is necessary, if not desirable, but much work done by CBS is a little premature, if not presumptive, since I've not named the department anything other than the emergency temporary managing conservator. All right, so with that little soliloquy, any other witnesses? Ms. Edwards, Ms. Iverson, Ms. Moore? Ms. Moore, I'm sure you want to east. Thank you.
I do, Judge.
And she was sworn.
May I call her now?
You may.
Okay. Can you hear me, Miss East?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay. Can you tell the judge how you are related to the child in this case?
Yes, I'm her dad's cousin.
And how did you find out about her?
So, my other cousin had contacted me and they said that Laura had reached out to him and asked if they would like to be put on the list, and he denied. And I wanted to step in his place as a placement.
And you contacted the department on what date?
I don't recall the date. I'm sorry.
Do you need to look at your phone to refresh your memory?
Yes, please.
Okay, just don't read from your phone. Just look at it and then you can answer.
You may,
Okay.
Ms. Moore, I'll probably rely on you to elicit any ICWA information on the dad's side of the house. Thank you. Ms.
I'm
East,
sorry.
no, that's fine. Just let us know when you're ready.
I reached out on Monday, May 20th.
And what happened after that?
She called me and asked me questions about our social security and our driver's license and things like that.
Okay, and did you provide that information?
Yes, I did.
What date did you provide that?
I'll pull it back up.
Yeah, you might
I
just want to
provided-
keep that.
Okay. I provided that information on the 25th and on the 28th. She asked for additional information on the 28th.
And
Okay.
I'm sorry. Again, Ms. East, who is she?
Who is Miss Caroline?
Okay, thank you.
Did anyone come to your home and do a home assessment?
Yes, they did.
And was that an individual from CPS?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that individual's name?
I don't recall her name. She did introduce herself, but I don't recall it.
Okay. And you've also been text messaging with her, is that correct?
Yes.
At any point were you made aware that the preliminary home study was approved?
Yes, ma'am. She told me it would be approved when she left my house.
And when did she leave your house? What day?
It was on the 29th.
Okay. Did you hear anything from the department after the 29th?
I tried making several phone calls, but they would not give me any information on what was going to happen next after that. No, ma'am.
Okay. When you said that you made several phone calls, give me 1 minute. When you're talking about, you made phone calls to Ms. Price, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And to the courtesy worker that did come out.
Okay. You actually called Ms. Price at 1:13 on June 1st, is that correct?
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You also called Ms. Price at 4:52 on June 3rd, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You also called Ms. Price at 1:44 on June 4th, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You called her at 3:23 on June 6th, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't call you back after any of those phone calls?
She answered some, and most of the time she just said she would need to speak to her supervisor, or she could not share any information with me at that time.
Okay. Now, you did send her a text message as well as the phone call on June 1st, correct?
Yes.
And at that point, you were letting her know you hadn't heard back from anybody and you just wanted to know if you passed, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she respond?
I called her and she said she could not give me any information at that time.
Okay. What about, sorry, go ahead.
I had mentioned that the other preliminary worker had told us that we did pass, and she said that she had not received that information.
Did she indicate to you whether or not she was going to reach out to that courtesy worker to get that information?
No, ma'am. Not that I recall.
And then on June 3rd, you sent her a text message asking for updates. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she respond to that?
She would never, she didn't, I say never, I'm sorry. She didn't usually respond to any text that I sent. I would normally wait and then call her because she didn't normally reply to text. So I normally called her.
So on June 3rd, did she answer the phone?
I don't recall what days that she did.
Okay. You actually got in touch with them again last Thursday. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did anybody respond to you or help you?
I got to talk to her supervisor as well as her, and they told me that the case had went to conservatorship and they were having a hard time placing her with me due to the fact that they didn't have my name at her initial release. The baby's initial release.
So the supervisor and Ms. Price told you that they were having a hard time placing her with you because they didn't have your name when the baby was released from the hospital initially?
Yes, they said my name was given late.
Okay. You realize that there have been pictures taken of your home, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would like to show the court those pictures. Are you okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, I did email these pictures out this morning. It's just pictures of the home, and I would ask for permission to basically move to enter those as 1 through 5.
Okay, bear with me just a moment. Let me first see if there are any objections And let me enable the.
Quick question: does the diamond experience on other therapeutic modalities?
All right, let's get that muted. Okay, stand by while I enable the screen share feature, please.
Ms. Lexi.
Yes, ma'am. I can see them.
Okay, so this is number one. Can you explain to us what this is a picture of?
This is a picture of my kitchen/dining room.
Okay. And number two?
That is also a picture of my kitchen. It's walking into my kitchen and dining room.
Okay. Number three?
That is my bed, and that's my room.
Okay, and over here we have the bassinet for the baby, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then this is a toy that you bought her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then we can kind of see into the bathroom in this picture. Is that one of the baby tubs?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. And then number four?
That is my son, both of my son's rooms.
Okay, now they like to sleep on the floor kind of like they're camping, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And your husband's in the process of building them a bunk bed, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So you guys just moved into this home a month ago, is that right?
Yes, ma'am, a little over a month ago.
And you're still in the process of kind of, getting their beds built and things like that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You have talked to your landlord about having a fifth child in the home, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Has your landlord approved that?
Yes, she has.
Is she willing to testify if needed?
Yes, ma'am. I believe she would be.
Okay. And this is number five. What are we seeing here?
That's both my daughter's rooms.
Okay. I want to ask you a little bit about your home makeup. I do not want you to give me the names of your children, okay?
Okay.
Because we're on YouTube, so let's not say that. So living in the home is you and your husband, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then just give me their sex. So boy or girl and their age of your children.
My oldest is 8, and she's a girl. My second oldest is 6, and he's a boy. I have a girl, she's 5, and I have another boy, and he's fixing to turn 5.
Okay. Are these all biological children?
No, ma'am.
How many of them are biological?
Just one.
The other 3 are adopted kids, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you guys are about to finalize that adoption. It's a private adoption from people that you know, friends, basically.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you spoken to your husband about this infant, this preemie being placed in your home?
Yes, I have.
And how does he feel about that?
He feels that he doesn't want any child to not be loved as much as his kids are. And my husband was actually partially homeless when he was a kid, and he doesn't want that for any other kids.
So is he in support of bringing on another child?
Yes, he is.
Have you talked to him about this possibly being a short-term placement? Maybe if the mother is able to get the baby back, and if she's not, that it could turn into a long-term situation.
Yes, ma'am. It has been something we've discussed, and he's on board. Either way, he would like to encourage the mother as much as possible because he believes that parents are the best option for kids, but he is willing to be her parents if that is necessary, yes.
And you've been in contact with this mother in this case, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she express to you that she wanted the baby placed with you?
Yes, she did.
You have a fairly open, is it fair to say you have a fairly open line of communication with her?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're not best friends, but you talk, you're civil.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And one of the things that you were concerned about yesterday was being able to send her pictures and videos and give her information about her baby, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's because that's important to you that she's able to get that information. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. Tell me how many bedrooms you have.
I have 3 bedrooms.
Okay. And tell me who occupies each. Not names. So yours is you and your husband. Then the girls share a room and the boys share a room, correct?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
How many bathrooms?
2 bathrooms.
Okay. You have a large yard, correct?
Yes, ma'am. It's on 1 acre of property.
Okay. We talked about yesterday the fact that this infant is having to go to weekly doctor's appointments until she reaches 5 pounds. Are you able to facilitate taking her to those appointments?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Do you have someone to watch your other children while you take care of her doctor's appointments?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Do you also have individuals like your mother and your best friend who you believe will pass a background check that you would like to have their information run as a possible sitter for this child if needed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you asking the court to place this baby with you today?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you ready today?
Yes, ma'am.
You have everything you need, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Your children are excited about the possibility?
They're very excited.
All right. Do you believe it's in the best interest that this baby be placed with family instead of foster care?
Yes, I do.
And do you believe it's in this baby's best interest that she be placed in your home specifically?
Yes, ma'am.
Pass wins.
All right, thank you, Ms. Edwards.
I don't have any questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Iverson.
No, sir, no further questions.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Ms. East, are you aware of any Native American or Alaskan heritage or membership eligibility on Mr. Bryant's side of the house?
I don't believe so.
Okay, and you probably heard earlier that the court received information that Mr. Bryant is deceased. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and is he in fact, to your knowledge, deceased?
Yes.
Okay, and might sound like a silly question, but how do you know that?
My mom told me, and Laura, his sister, messaged me.
Do you know when he died?
I don't have an exact date. I believe it was 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Does around Memorial Day sound about right?
Yes, ma'am. Or yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay. Did the mother tell you anything about his demise?
No, she did not.
Okay.
Or no, my mom or the baby's mom?
I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. White.
Okay, no.
No. Okay.
And she stated in court at the last hearing that it was a brain aneurysm.
Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Iverson. Based upon any personal knowledge that you may have, Ms. East, are you aware, or do you have any concerns for the mother's any drug use on her part?
No, sir. I don't know the mother all that well.
Okay.
Not intimately like that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone for Ms. East? Okay. All right. And Ms. East, were the court to name the department the temporary managing conservator and place with you and Mr. East, would you all be able to receive the baby today?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other witnesses, Ms. Moore?
No, Judge, and I wrote down ICWA and then I completely
That's
dropped all on asking the question, so I apologize.
not at all. I completely understand. Okay. All right. All right. Any requests for closing statements, closing arguments from anyone?
No.
No.
All right. Ms. Croft, recommendation, anything further?
Sir, I'd just like to let you know that either July 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, an FGC will be set for this case.
Okay. So, not before July 1st. Is that correct, Ms. Croft? Or we have Ms. Monaghan. She might have some input too. I think Ms. Croft is helping us anticipate the status hearing being set on the 1st of July. So, Ms. Monaghan, do you
Yes,
want to
sir.
share? You want to share? You may. Thank you.
So here's the thing. I will be out of town. Let me go back. I could do one late afternoon on, hold on, let me get over there. On the 28th. But when I say late afternoon, I'm looking probably 4 o'clock. Other than that, I will be out of town starting the 20th of June through the 27th. Or I can do one next week, the 17th, 18th, or 19th.
Or
So that's up to everybody, and I have to see if I have a supervisor available as well.
Okay, so you
I would
said
prefer those dates before I leave on the 24th. I'm gone June 24th to July 8th.
So it would have
If
to
that's
be,
possible.
so it's going to have to be next week, either the 17th, 18th, or 19th. 17th and 18th, I'm completely open. The
I'm only
9th,
available on the 19th, Salika.
say that again.
you're open on the 19th, Miss
Only
Lori?
the 19th.
Only the
Yes.
19th. It will have to be at 1 o'clock.
And Ms. Monaghan, will that be virtual or hybrid?
It's up to whatever the family prefers. So if they want it in person, at least I will be there. If nobody else can be there, I can be there in person. But that's up to the family.
Okay. Okay. And so it might be that mom may not make herself available to make that option. So but if as far as everyone else, you all can make the 19th.
Yes.
That will keep us within our dates and enable us to have the status hearing on July the 1st.
Yes, I'm emailing the supervisor as we speak.
Okay, but that's a problem. That's a problem
I won't
for
be
you.
available on the 1st.
Yeah, that's a problem for you, Ms. Iverson. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
Ms. Iverson, if you attend the FGC, or who knows, it might morph into a PC, could you have somebody stand in for you on 7/1?
Yes, sir. I'm also willing to call in if it's not going to be too long. I've done it before.
Well, I know, and I certainly would I certainly would allow you to do that, but I would not even ask you to do that on vacation, much less try to require you to do that. So, Ms. Edwards,
Judge, if
I'm
I
sorry,
can, oh,
I
I'm
think
sorry.
Ms. Edwards, did you have something?
No, I didn't. I'm just playing with my pen.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Ms. Moore.
No, I'm done. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
I do have an additional request when you're ready.
Okay, so are we good, Ms. Iverson, for 7/1, somebody stand in for you?
I'll work something out, Judge, one way or the other.
Okay, and if you deem that that's not going to work because something, is at issue and hotly contested, then we'll somehow try to work around it.
Thank you,
if we need to reset something, virtually once you get back. So, okay.
And that's at 9. We're setting it for 9 on the 1st.
Well, actually, I'm going to let you pick the time.
I can't remember. I think I'm okay in the morning. I think that works in Europe.
Well, in the morning there, or
yeah,
the morning here?
In the morning here is better. Yeah, because we're like 7 or 8 hours ahead.
Okay. Well, speaking of ahead, we've really gotten ahead of ourselves. So, Ms. Moore, your announcement would be a request subsequent to TMC, right?
Correct.
Okay. So at this point, based on the evidence, the court does find there is sufficient evidence to meet each and every one of the elements of 262, names the department temporary managing conservator of the child, the mother temporary possessory conservator. Furthermore, based on evidence, the court does hereby order the placement with Mr. and Mrs. East, Lexi East, and her family, with the court's great respect and appreciation. And would order that a full home study be done, but there be no change in that placement without agreement, or barring an emergency, without hearing and final further order of the court. The court will set the status hearing on July the 1st, 7/1 at 9 a.m. Okay. All right. So, Ms. Moore, the court's ready for your requests or announcements.
Well, obviously, I think it's clear that I'm requesting placement with the East family today. In addition to that, I'm requesting that the mother be ordered to submit to a drug test. I'm requesting that she have the maximum amount of visitation with her child as the court is willing to grant. I believe that it's in the best interest of my client to have that bonding time with her mother. And of course, I'm requesting, if she is not positive for amphetamines or methamphetamines, that she be able to have those visits without PPE.
And Judge, I would mimic the same request.
All right. Thank you. Anything from anyone regarding those issues? Okay. So I've heard that you all know who's going to be the caseworker. So can someone let me know who the caseworker is going to be and the supervisor?
I think it may be Destiny Brown.
That is my understanding also.
I
Okay.
believe, I can't remember her supervisor's name that's covering in. Does it start with an M?
Is it Amber Hames? Is it Ms. Hames?
No. Well, I'll tell you, the last time that,
Miss Hutchinson,
I believe it's Miss Hutchinson also.
what's her first name?
Marissa.
Marissa?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Ms.
Thank you,
Hutchinson, I believe she is on as well. All right. Bear with me just a moment. And it sounds like everyone can make the 6/19, June 19th at 1 p.m. Family group conference.
I'm not sure if the caseworker and supervisor are available. It doesn't appear that Miss Hutchison is with us, but I am available to be there and I will get with them.
Okay, all right, thank you. So long as there is a supervisor there, whether it's Ms. Hutchison or someone else. Now, without giving any addresses, and the court has heard some testimony about where mother is living and with whom the mother is living, do we know the geographical distance between placement and the East's home?
Between the current foster home and the East home?
No, where mother is currently living. I think she's living with the number 3 name on the caregiver resource form. I'm just wondering what the geographical distance is.
I believe it's about an hour.
Okay, all right.
Roughly.
Roughly from
Could
where?
be about an hour and 15, but it's in that range.
Okay, and Ms. East, you all are in Montgomery County, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As to the visits, and we will revisit this issue at the status hearing. I'm going to require an order the department to supervise weekly visits for 1 hour. And then beyond that, irrespective at this point of the department's requests or recommendations, I'm going to allow, as agreed, visits supervised by either Ms. Lexi East or Mr. East.
Oh, so we're the supervisors of the visits?
If you, not the hourly, weekly, 1 hour weekly visits. I'm going to let CPS pick the location for that simply because they need to observe the visits. They need to observe some visits. Now, I'm allowing beyond that, in addition to that, visits supervised by you and or your husband, if you all are willing and able to do that, and you all will be able to, if you are, will be able to, along with the mother, agree when and where and how long those visits will be. So if that's something you are willing and able to do, you might very well need to speak to Mr. East. So you all may do that until we come back on 7/1 for the status hearing, and then we'll review how things have gone in that regard.
All righty.
Now, there's some evidence that the mother has transportation. I believe last time she was able to get to court in person. So if you all want to hold that in your home, or if you want to hold it at some neutral public location, that would be fine too, so long as you all are willing to do this. You do not have to do it. You are not expected to do it. And it has nothing to do with you all being a placement.
No, we're willing. Me and my husband assisted.
Okay, very good. So, and you all also have the prerogative and the responsibility to cut the visits short if they're not, if they become inappropriate at any point. So you'll have to use y'all's good judgment in that, if you are willing to do that. And if something goes awry, we hope it doesn't. We don't expect it to, but if it does, then you all can let CPS and Ms. Moore know that, look, until further notice, we're not comfortable with visits, supervising these visits anymore.
All right.
Okay. So, all right. Now, the court is going to hereby order the mother submit to a hair follicle and a urinalysis by the end of testing tomorrow. Now, who's going to prepare that 2054? Ms. Mays, will that be Invest or CVS? I'm not sure we have CVS on.
If CVS doesn't do it, I'll put it in.
Okay, so and I believe Ms. Price has the mother's contact information, but that 2054 needs to be in place because she shall go for both a hair follicle and a urinalysis by the end of testing tomorrow at the most convenient proximate location to where you all know she's staying right now. All right, now if the UA is positive for methamphetamine, again, just the UA. If the UA is positive for methamphetamine, the mother shall be required to wear full PPEs, gloves, mask, long pants, long shirts, full PPE, if there's any indication of methamphetamine on the urinalysis. And so, and that will be the order of the court unless and until she has a UA negative for methamphetamine. Okay. Now, Ms. East, if you are willing and able, you may take all of the pictures you want, all of the videos you want, and forward those to the mother. Just don't put anything on social media, of course.
Okay.
That's not something you're required to do, but you may.
I may send her stuff.
You may send her pics and videos. I believe there was some indication that you were making inquiries or that you were willing to do that.
Yes.
Would you please thank Mr. East for us as well?
Yes, I will.
Okay, very good. All right. Anything else from anyone else?
Yes, I'm sorry, I have one more request. I'm requesting that the department be ordered to get whatever information they need to get Miss East a kinship worker as soon as possible.
All right. So the court will direct the department to do just exactly that, and to have and this needs to be passed along to CVS, and to have that PCA discussion and PMC versus adoption discussion sooner rather than later. Okay. All right. So again, thank you very much, Ms. East. And with that, I will sign orders that comport with my rendition. And let me look over my notes real fast. I believe that is everything. So thank you all very, very much. You're excused. Don't forget the family group conference, June the 19th at 1 p.m. and our next court hearing. And this will be in person for our status hearing, July the 1st, 9 a.m. Ms. Iverson certainly may appear virtually. Okay. All right. With that, you're excused. Thank you very much. And Ms. Edwards, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Indeed, we have the EA status hearing. Again, for a status hearing, we have Ms. Purdue Wheeler, and we have Ms. Ivory Lindsay still. So let me call for Sabri Aga. Is the mother present?
She is not, Judge. She had a situation at work that she really kind of couldn't get out of and was worried about potentially losing her job. But she trusts me to go forward today.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Purdue Wheeler. So with that, let me get everyone who may testify in this matter. It looks like it's going to be at least Ms. Croft and Ms. Franklin. Anyone else, everyone else who may testify, raise your right hand, thanks too. All right. Thank you. Ms. Dick, you may call your first.
Okay, I'd like to call Ms. Franklin. Okay. And have you had an opportunity to go over the ICWA questionnaire with mother?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Is there any reason to believe the child is or may qualify for membership in an Indian Native American tribe?
No.
Okay. And has a service plan been created?
The original service plan is what was created and also on file currently.
Okay. All right. And have you had an opportunity to visit with the mother about the service plan?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And have you made any recommendations for changes in the service plan?
I have made recommendations for changes with Miss Aga, but she did want to make sure that her attorney was made aware of those before she agreed to anything. And so that's
Okay.
why there's not a new one filed.
Okay, that's why it has not been filed.
That's correct.
Okay, and so at this point, have you had an opportunity to speak with Mom's attorney about the service plan?
No, the meeting that was going to be scheduled, we all could not coordinate our schedules.
Okay, so we'll have an opportunity to go over the service plan and have questions at this hearing, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then did you also create a service plan for Ariana?
A child plan, yes.
Okay, and what is the current visitation plan for Mom?
Actually, there is not one. That was something that's going to be discussed. At the current RTC that she's in, they recommended that they wait at least 30 days until a face-to-face visit is scheduled. As of right now, we are approaching that 30-day point so that we can come up with a visitation schedule.
Okay, all right. So did you and the mom discuss that at all?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and did she have any requests in terms of visitation?
No, she didn't. But what I did suggest is that on the phone call days that Ariana is allowed to call, that I supervise at least 2 days that we do a phone call. Her phone call days are Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I suggested to Mom that we do Tuesday and Thursday, and then possibly have a visit face-to-face on a Friday.
Okay, and did Mom have any objection to that?
No, she did not.
Okay, so rather than a Sunday phone call, you would suggest having a Friday face-to-face?
Correct.
Okay. Right. And what is the current, well, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do this. What specific things are included in the service plan for Mom?
We discussed family therapy for her to continue and maintain her employment, and also safe housing. She did agree with her attorney's agreement to doing a psychological and following any recommendations. Mom is currently in individual therapy, and she just started with a new therapist. She did inform me that this new therapist does specialize in trauma and behavioral therapy. She did agree to give us her medical records through her attorney, which she agreed to signing a release of information through Ms. Wheeler, and then Ms. Wheeler forwarding that information to us.
Okay. And was there any, did you request family therapy?
Correct. Family therapy was requested.
Okay. And what else did you request in the service plan?
That was our initial asking point. She said again that she would agree to those and anything else that her attorney would suggest.
Okay. And to your knowledge, has Ms. Wheeler recommended anything else?
Not that I'm aware of as of today.
Okay. We'll find out.
Right.
Okay. And let's go to Ariana's service plan. Can you tell us what's included in her service plan?
She's included with her individual therapy, which she does there at the facility. She also does group meetings, and we are in the process of trying to schedule a neurological psychosocial for her, and also a brain mapping test.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the brain mapping?
Basically, it is a assessment and an exam that would give us more insight to possibility of how Ariana processes things. As of now, and speaking with Mom and looking over some of the information that was previously filed, we don't have a exact trigger, or really why Ariana acts out the way that she does with her mom, and she actually can't put that information into words with us.
Okay. What is the current recommendation in terms of her medical care for Ariana? And I guess let me be more specific. Is Ariana currently on any psychotropic medications?
Yes, she is. And she recently had a med review. So her medicine has actually changed from the time she was discharged from the hospital in Wichita and her entering the placement that was a temporary placement until now going to the RTC. So within a month's time span, her medication has been reviewed and changed more than once.
And can you give us a little more information on how that review?
Ms. Dick, I'm sorry, Ms. Dick, excuse me. Let everyone be reminded to use the child's initials, please.
Thank you. So what are the changes that have occurred in a broad strokes? What are the changes that have occurred in the child's medication at this time?
2 medications were removed and also discontinued for use. And then the other one that she had been consistently using, the dosage was modified.
And was it modified downward?
Correct.
Okay. So overall, that you were pleased as her caseworker, I imagine.
Very much so.
Okay. And that resulted from the doctor at the RTC making recommendations?
Yes.
All right. And how is the child adjusting to the RTC at this point?
We have not had any issues that's been reported to me. Our AA is very talkative. She has no problems communicating with her attorney, Ms. Croft, or myself on a regular basis.
Okay. Does she stay in touch with you pretty well?
Very much so, yes.
Okay, all right. And I understand you've had to provide new clothes and all sorts of fun things.
Yes, pretty much everything.
But she does seem to be adjusting well to the RTC.
Yes.
Okay. And how is school going for AA?
She's actually out of school now. She did do a part of a summer program that was supposed to end last week. So she's on track in school as of now.
Okay. And have we made reasonable efforts so far to either return AA home or to place her in a relative kinship placement?
With the information that we have, yes.
Okay. And is it possible, do we have any relative or kinship placements?
No, not at this time.
Okay. And is it possible for her to be returned home at this time? Would it be contrary to her welfare to be returned home?
Yes, at this time.
Okay. So are we asking that DFPS be maintained as a temporary managing conservator?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just go back to her service plan. Did she have any specific request in terms of visitation?
Did mom
did AA have any specific requests regarding visitation?
She just requested that anytime there is a visit, that if it's a phone call, that either myself, Ms. Croft, or Ms. Lindsay supervises the phone call. And then if it's an in-person visit, that I'm there.
Okay. But she seemed comfortable with the idea of visitation.
She is willing to, yes.
Okay. All right. Was there anything else on the service plan that we need to cover?
No, not at this time.
Okay. No further questions. I will pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Pordue-Wheeler.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Franklin, so I guess what you testified to earlier was your version of the updated service plan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that would be, and I don't mind the concept of maintaining a residence and a job. I do kind of take issue with the proof of residence and that sort of nature. You know, the mother is living with family members, so it's not like there's a lease in her name.
Correct.
Department willing to modify that, just that the department be able to come see the mother's home if and when it's necessary and appropriate for this child to potentially come home?
Yes.
Okay. And the department's not asking the mother to change to a new department recommended therapist, but just to provide medical records. And also, I would imagine y'all would want the mom's therapist to potentially confer with the child's therapist.
Yes.
Okay. Does the department plan on editing the third required action, which was listed as having a meaningful and helpful social network and babysitters. I'm not really sure even how one would document that, but I'm not sure what the purpose of that is on a service plan.
I can't answer that in terms of the purpose because I didn't create it, but yes, it can be taken off the amended plan.
All right. And then on the original plan that was filed, there was this concept of parenting skills and having to do parenting collaboration group meetings. This mother has her other younger child, like the ability to parent and change diapers and all that. I don't think is an issue. Is that being removed as well?
It can be if it's agreed upon. I have no problem with that.
Judge, those would be my only requests. If my client is okay with doing a psychological and providing her medical records, I have no problem with that. I would just request that the department send me whatever HIPAA release it is that they want her to sign. And, I would ask that she not, the situation in this case isn't that, mom doesn't necessarily have a place to live. She has moved, but she's not, she's living with family. So I just would hate for some of these more detailed things to become a problem for us, some sort of issue later on. But otherwise, I'm fine with what was stated today in court of the doing of the family therapy, the department being able to come evaluate the home, if the department's going to pay for mom to do a psychological, and release her medical records regarding, her therapy with the department, and signing a HIPAA release. I would ask to add that mom's therapist be ordered to confer with the child's therapist. To what end that might be helpful, I have no idea, but who knows? If they do it, it could be magical. And of course,
what I will do, instead of ordering the therapist to do that, I will order the department I'll think about that. Let me think about that a little longer. So go ahead and finish, and then we'll hear from Ms. Ivory Lindsay.
Okay. But yeah, those things that were stated today in testimony, I'm very okay with having in the family plan of service. There hasn't been any issue with mom having transportation or ID or a place to live. And so I don't really see the purpose of that being specifically outlined in the family plan, as well as the parenting classes or the parent. I don't know what the value, the way it was originally written in the family plan of service, that there would be a minimum of one parenting collaboration group meeting. I don't know what just one meeting on anything does anybody in general. And so I don't see the purpose of having it added in this case as a one-off, or is just being necessary. I don't see that being a useful endeavor to spend it, our time on in this particular case, in this situation. I'd like for mom to be able to have the ability to do her health and work on her raising her other child and get her counseling done and do group therapy with this child and see what we can get set up long-term for this kiddo.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Ivory Lindsay.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Franklin, have you discussed with Ariana, I guess, family counseling, what that would look like with her mom?
Yeah. I have discussed the idea of it, and she's hesitant now, but she said that she thinks she's getting the help that she needs so that she could possibly be around her mom for that.
Okay. And do you believe at this time that it should begin, I guess, anytime soon that it should begin, the family therapy?
I can't really make a call on that, only because I have not observed them in contact with each other. Again, we're going to try to build up to the face-to-face visit with the phone calls. And I think from that, depending on what comes out of that, we could possibly start.
Okay. And so it would be your testimony to the court that it will kind of be, I guess family therapy needs to be ordered, but you, at this time, you don't believe that it would start until you believe Ariana is comfortable with it.
That's correct, because one thing she has mentioned more than once is that mom is definitely her trigger, and Ms. Abe is aware of that.
Okay. And so do you have a set time on when you believe these Friday face-to-face visits will begin?
No, I don't. I have put in a request to the doctor to give me her opinion in terms of the eval, but on the 17th of this month, it will be the 30 days that she has been placed at this RTC. And that was their blanket recommendation before visits started.
Okay. But as of today, mom is on the call list for child call, but it just needs to be supervised.
That's correct.
Okay. And you stated that you guys are trying to get her set up with it's a neuropsychological.
Correct. And also brain mapping.
Okay. And is she currently seeing a psychiatrist?
Yes.
Do you know how often she's seeing one?
She's seeing the psychiatrist once every 2 weeks, and she's doing therapy, individual therapy weekly.
Okay. And the that therapist is on site, correct?
That's correct.
Do you know? Okay. Okay. So she has access to that therapist pretty much every day if need be.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And her medication, is that medication going to be reevaluated by the psychiatrist? Well, how often is it reevaluated by the psychiatrist? Do you know?
They do a med review monthly.
Okay. And she's coming up at the end of this month for her monthly med review?
That's correct.
Okay. And to your knowledge, how is she doing on her current meds?
Current meds, she's doing fine. They have not reported any behavioral issues.
Okay. And has AA had any complaints about her medications or any
She
side
has
effects?
not complained to me. No, ma'am.
Okay. And you stated that AA, has she complained to you about any issues at her placement?
No, not to me.
Okay. And do you believe that this current placement is in her best interest?
Yes, at this time.
Okay. And that neuropsychological, well, actually, no, let me strike that. She also was scheduled for a forensic interview, correct?
Correct.
And that interview was conducted?
Correct.
Okay. And when do you believe you'll have those results?
I was actually told I should have it within 24 to 48 hours. But when I contacted them on Friday, they stated they were still working on the report.
And that's all I have, Judge.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Franklin, whom would you envision doing the family therapy? The child's therapist?
That is my thought process, but I actually don't know because I'm not sure what services they are willing to provide in terms of family therapy.
If at all. Okay, all right, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Dick.
And that was kind of my question too. So the family therapist will more than likely be another therapist.
That is a possibility, yes.
Okay, all right. All right, and both mom will do a psych eval and AA will do a psych eval.
A psychological, yes.
Okay, great. All right, no other questions.
All right.
And no further questions of this witness. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Purdue-Wheeler, anything else?
No questions, Judge.
All right, thank you. Okay. Ms. Dick, you may call your next, if any.
Thank you. I'd like to call CASA.
Right. I believe that's Ms. Croft. Okay, yes. She was sworn. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Croft, have you had an opportunity to visit with AA recently?
It's been about 2 weeks ago. The Sunday before we had court on Monday is when I did my visit with her.
And how's she doing?
She's doing good.
And are you maintaining any telephone contact with her?
Since she's been in her current placement here, I have not. I did have contact with her regularly when she was in the placement before where she is placed now.
Okay. So no concerns at this time?
No, if there were, then when I did my visit, child would have very, very gladly said so. Okay. She speaks her mind, and so there's no doubt she would have told me.
So she's pretty direct.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. No further questions.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Purdue-Wheeler.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, when was the last time you had contact with my client, the mother, in this case?
Actually this morning.
And is she aware, of these services that are potentially going to be asked of her and willing to do what she needs to do to be supportive of her child in whatever shape that takes?
Yes, ma'am. This morning, she had called me and she was letting me know she wasn't going to be in court as well. And she also said that she's talked with Miss Franklin and she's going to abide by, whatever you approve and say that can be on the service plan. And she has no issues, no problems doing it.
Okay. And she aware of the fact that this child could, potentially need services for quite some time and is willing to do whatever is best for the child, whether that be remaining in a facility or working towards coming home, et cetera, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ivor Lindsay?
Just briefly, Ms. Croft, do you believe that the current placement that she's in, do you think it's in her best interest to remain there?
I do, because they work with TBRI, and they are trauma informed. So I do strongly feel that this is a good placement for her.
Okay. Do you believe that her having a neuropsychological is in her best interest? Do you think it's needed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you think the brain mapping is also needed for AA?
Yes, ma'am, I agree.
Okay. And do you believe that it's in her best interest to start off just with telephone calls?
Yes, ma'am, and then slowly progress to a face-to-face. I agree.
Okay. And as you stated, if you believe that AA had any issues, she would definitely communicate them to you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right, that's all I have, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Ms. Dick.
No other questions, Your Honor. The state rests.
All right, thank you. Ms. Purdue-Wheeler, do you rest?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Ivory Lindsay?
I do, Judge, and I don't have any witnesses. I rest.
Oh, okay, thank you. Wait, I'm sorry, the last part again?
I said I don't have any witnesses and I rest. Yes, Judge.
Okay, thank you, thank you. All right. Ms. Franklin, remind me of the goals.
I think she's frozen, Judge.
I freeze or did she freeze?
No, she froze. I think she's going to
now she's gone. Now she's back. Ms. Franklin, are you back with us? Did you even know you were away?
No, I just saw the screen froze, but I am now.
Well, you're almost excused. Remind me of the goals, please, ma'am.
At least she's froze with a smile.
Well, that is $1 million smile.
Yes.
I know for sure, Your Honor. One of them is, I believe the first one is family reunification.
Okay.
I don't even want to guess on the second one right now.
Okay.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, it keeps kicking me out for some reason.
Okay. Well, you should get somehow obtain that frozen picture of you and use it on all of your stuff. So the goals, I was asking about the goals. It sounds like maybe the primary permanency goal is FRE.
That's correct.
Okay, and then any concurrent or alternate?
Unrelated adoption.
Okay. Okay, all right. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so if you all will take note, the court has the following amendments or modifications to the service plan before I make my findings and make it an order. So I don't remember the exact verbiage, but the one that has to do with the babysitter, I'm going to strike that. The one-time parent collaboration group meeting, I'm going to strike that. I'm going to qualify the task relative to the mother's housing, and I'm only going to require that she verify the safe housing that the department vet that provided that it is an actual prospective placement, a potential placement of the child. So in other words, not every place that the mother lives, unless it's where she's proposing to receive the child back. I'm going to forbear any attempt to order the mother's therapist and the child's therapist to, confer. But I will allow the parties to agree to their consulting and sharing information, so long as the attorneys are in agreement. Otherwise, we'll have to have a hearing on that issue. Now, relatedly, and as to the family therapy component, that shall occur only if and when the child's therapist or the therapist agrees, the child's therapist agrees, that is, and Ms. Ivory Lindsay. So legal way of saying if the child agrees and the child's therapist agrees, then that family counseling shall go forward. Okay, so with that, the court finds the family plans of service narrowly tailored for this case and does hereby make them an order of the court, incorporating them therein. There are no parents present to admonish. The court understands and, of course, does not hold against the mother her unavailability today. All right, bear with me, please. The department is continued as TMC. Current placement is approved to continue. And I think the mother's cooperation, the services the child is receiving, and the burgeoning relationship that she has with CASA and her attorney and Ms. Franklin bode really well, along with her forthrightness. And so our next hearing is for an initial permanency that will be October the 7th at 9 a.m. If court needs to address anything between now and then, somebody get us back in here and together, and the court will gladly hear anything. Our current dismissal date is April the 21st, 2025. The court notes the department's permanency goals. And with that, anything else from anyone else? Okay, I believe that concludes our dockets, our docket today. So we'll see some of you virtually tomorrow for Liberty County in the morning, I believe. So if there's not anything else, thank you all very, very much and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Judge.